Hey there, it's Wayfair here, where delivery and setup are as easy as a few taps on your phone. You're relaxing in an old hammock, scrolling Wayfair's app, when you spot it, a brand new patio set. Next thing you know, Wayfair delivers it right to your patio and sets it up. Oh, you need a new grill too? All right, Wayfair's got you covered. With Wayfair's Room of Choice delivery and fast expert setup on qualifying orders, life gets a little easier. Visit wayfair.com or the Wayfair app.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
Welcome to the Black Tax. There's an African proverb that says, "Only a fool tests the depth of water with both feet." Today is my birthday, and so the story that I've been wanting to tell, I decided today would be the day that I tell this story, because I'm sure many of you have had to deal with this. When I began this podcast, I talked about in the beginning of my career, I would temp a lot, and they were always long-term temp assignments. Some of them were amazing, others disastrous, but overall, they all contribute to the plethora of talent that I have today. So I was working on this particular lawsuit at a particular firm that focused on trademark and copyrights. The senior partner had hired a bunch of associates to assist him on this particular project. Each of the 5 associates had various years of experience, where I had the most experience and came highly recommended by the agency that I was working for, because I had a very particular skill when it came to intellectual property. So we each are assigned different projects, and there is 3 men and 2 women on this project. I'm the only Black person on this project. So as we're climbing through boxes and documents and putting this infringement case together, I come in from lunch, and my boss, an older, white, receding, overweight man, walks in my office and says, "Hey, I need to make some changes with the project." And I interrupted him, and I was like, "Oh, you're letting me go?" He's like, No, I'm not letting you go. I'm just taking your project and giving it to Denise so that she can do your project and you can take her project. Now, mind you, we had been at this almost 10 weeks, and we had another period of time before we were going to go into interrogatories and depositions, but there was a bunch of things that needed to happen in between all of this process. And I looked at him and I said, "Are you sure that's what you want to do?" Because she really isn't as knowledgeable about this particular case as she should be. And he was like, "No, it's fine, no problem, but I think it's best that this happens." And I didn't make a fuss. Internally, I was cursing him the fuck out. But I didn't make a fuss. I let it go. And I just went along with the flow. He suggested that I collect all of the documents and all the boxes that I had in my office and have them sent to her office, and then all her boxes would then be sent to my office. And I was like, fine. I think the easiest way to do this so nobody's boxes get confused is that this happens simultaneously. So I called downstairs to the mailroom. I asked for 2 of the clerks to come upstairs with carts so that they could go get her boxes and put them on one cart, and one come to my office and take all the boxes out of my office and then move them to the proper office. Now, Denise, this white woman who tried to use her sexuality as a way of moving up the pecking order. And I don't know what happened. I don't know when it happened or how it happened, but somewhere she must have done something to seduce my boss into making him take me, the most senior associate, off of this project and give it to the most junior associate. Now, the good thing for this was that I was not working my usual hours. Normally, I would get in the office by 7:30, and I wasn't walking out of the office till like 9:30, 10 o'clock, Monday through Friday. But because this piece of the project was important, but it wasn't the substance, it wasn't the main meat of the argument, I could leave the office by 6:30, 6:45, and I was okay with that. So we are a week away from depositions, and it's a long holiday weekend, but I had taken the Friday off so that I could have a 4-day weekend. So me and my other half could, travel and have a, nice little weekend. So I'm getting myself ready to leave, and she walks into my office. It is 6:30 on a Thursday, and she says, "Hey, I need your notes for this deposition on Tuesday." And I was like, "I've given you everything. I don't know what notes you're asking for." I'm talking about the notes that you put together while you were climbing through the boxes so that I can compare what you've done to what I've done to make sure that I'm on the right path. And I smiled and I said, "I'm sure you can handle this. You are a talented, gifted woman who knows what she's doing. My notes are not going to help you, nor are they going to make sense to you, because I have my own way of thinking and it is illogical, but it functions in my thought of chaos." And she's like, "Well, when you come in tomorrow, I want to sit down with you so we can kind of go through this stuff." And I was like, "Oh, I won't be back here till Tuesday." And she's like, "What do you mean?" I said, "I'm taking tomorrow off. Monday's a holiday, so I'm not coming back in here until Tuesday." And she's like, "Well, we'll see about that." And she storms off, frustrated. And I go on about my day, getting my bag packed, ready to walk out the door. So as I'm getting to the elevator, my boss stops me and he's like, "Hey, Malik, I need to talk to you for a minute." And I'm like, "Sure, what's up?" And he's like, "Hey, Denise came to me and said you are assisting her in what she needs, and I don't understand what the problem is." Well, she lied to you. I told her that I've given her everything that I had, that everything was in the boxes, and I was not going to be here tomorrow because I had already taken the day off so that I could have a 4-day weekend. And he was like, "Well, I don't understand. Why would she say you wouldn't help her?" I don't know, but she has everything that I had. And I told her that my notes will not make sense to her because my note taking is very illogical, but it's logical to my thought process. And he says, "Well, at least you should let her see the notes and give her an opportunity to go through the notes." And I was like, "I don't even have the notes anymore." So he goes, "Why don't you have the notes?" I said, "Because I'm not dealing with it. And I can unplug all that out of my brain cells and focus on what I need to focus on per your decision." And he's like, "Well, I understand. Well, okay, I get it. I know we all have our methods of absorbing information and being able to turn it around. But if she needs to ask you some questions, I would think that you would help her. I have no problem with doing that. But she wants to have a sit down meeting and go over things. And I'm not going to be here tomorrow." So he was like, "Well, at least be available by phone." And I was like, "I can do that." So I leave. I pick up my other half. We head to the airport. We're on our way to the Bahamas for the weekend. I don't have to be back in the office till by 11 o'clock because that's when the deposition starts. So I got time. So we'll go, have a great weekend. I didn't get any calls. And I was like, okay, well, I'm not worried about it. I'm going to keep pushing. So I get back. I'm already ready to go because I've been prepared for this 2 weeks before it started. So I don't have to rethink it or re-go through it or make sure everything's lined up because I tend to be a little anal that way. So we walk into the conference room and everybody's there, and the partner, I'm sitting on his left. Denise is sitting on his right. She's got this tight pencil skirt and this blazer, and her breasts are a little out there, which is a little inappropriate, but that ain't my choice. That ain't my decision. That ain't my preference. So I go first, and I think I may have 20 questions. And I ask the questions and we go through it. And in between the 20 questions, there are some sub questions because of the opposing side said some things that triggered some other things that led me to a different path of questioning. But then I was able to circle back to the line of questioning that I had set up. The other associates go, and now it's time for Denise to go. So she begins her questioning, and as she's beginning her questioning, it is clear she don't know what the fuck she's doing. She is all over the place, stepping on the other associates' toes with their line of questioning because apparently she must have went to them about this to see what they were doing, and she was then taking pieces of their information and putting it to her. I don't know why she thought that was going to give her a leg up. I don't know why she believed that she could skate through this process, but she failed horribly. My boss is clearly frustrated. He's red. He's going through this whole plethora of emotions. And somewhere in his head, doing her questioning, he turns to me and he says, I should have never put you on this project. You are nothing but a dumb nigger. Hard ER. The room is so quiet that you could hear a pin drop. Close my eyes. I drop my head. I look up. I look over to the person who's reporting this and I said, ma'am, is that on the record? And she said, yes, sir, it is on the record. And I said, thank you. I looked at my watch. It was about 1:30. And I said, I think this is the great time for us all to take a break and go have lunch. So I get up, grab my things, and I proceed to walk out of the conference room. I'm going to say 3 seconds behind me is the partner. He comes up, he says, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I don't know where that came from. Oh, I'm just so frustrated. And with all clarity and all seriousness, I said, you know exactly where it came from. You are a racist. You have made it painfully clear your position and how you see me as less than. So I'm going to go home. Oh, you can't go home. You have to stay. We have to work this out. Sir, you got to work this out. I don't have to do shit. I go up to my office. I grab my bag. I'm heading to the elevator. The managing partner of the firm comes and says, hey, before you leave, I really need to talk to you. I was like, not today. I'm going home. Well, I don't, ma'am, I'm going home. So there was a liquor store 3 blocks away from the office. So I go in, I get a bottle of Johnny Walker Blue. I get on the train, and then I go to the cemetery because I need to have a conversation with my dad. So I walk in the cemetery with the bottle in my bag, and I go to his grave, and I open the bottle, and I take a long swig, and I pour him a swig, and I take another swig, and I pour him a swig, and then I take a third swig, and I pour him a swig, and then I start cussing him the fuck out. I didn't want to do this. I didn't want to do this. I didn't want to do this. You made sure that I completed this, and yes, I'm grateful, but this is some bullshit. This is some motherfucking bullshit, and I am literally yelling at my father's headstone. Now, somewhere between yelling and drinking, the cemetery closed, and I'm drunk. Like, I'm drunk. So my other half is calling me, and she's like, where are you? I said, I'm at the cemetery. I'm drunk. I'm pissed off. And she's like, okay, wait. What do you mean you're at the cemetery? And why are you drunk at the cemetery? It's a long story, but I got to figure out how to get out the cemetery, and then I'll just get home. I got out the cemetery, luckily, without ripping a suit or hurting myself. Get on a train, get back to Fort Greene, walk up the block, go in the house. By then, I've adjusted. I'm a little sober. She asked me what happened. I told her what happened, and she's like, so what are you going to do? And I was like, I don't know. I'm going to sleep on it tonight, and I'll figure it out in the morning. So I get up in the morning. I throw on a hoodie, some jeans, empty backpack, and I head to work. I go in. I say, good morning. Everybody's looking at me like, what? Why is he dressed this way? I hand a handwritten note that I wrote on the train to the receptionist. And I said, can you give this to the managing partner. And she's like, okay, I'll make sure she gets it. No, I need you to go upstairs and give it to her now. So she gets up, she goes upstairs, she hands it to her. Now I'm in my office by now, and I'm collecting all of my things, my books, my mementos, the things that pictures, all of it, because I have resigned. She comes in and she's like, we really need to talk about this before this gets out of hand. And I looked at her and I said, it is already out of hand. There's no fixing this. There's no pretending that this didn't happen. So when I leave here, I'm going to go see my attorney. And then you and my attorney can have a conversation about whatever this is going to be. I leave, I go have a conversation with my lawyer. My lawyer's like, what do you want to do? I was like, I don't know, because there are some pitfalls that come from suing them. So I have to be creative in that it doesn't damage my future, because though there'll be a non-disclosure, non-circumvent contract attached to this, that doesn't prevent people from talking. That doesn't prevent people from saying, oh, he's saying whatever they want to say in a hush-hush kind of way, that then it becomes a detriment to my working. So I've got to figure out how to play this carefully. My lawyer looked at me, he's like, all right, we can figure that out. Do you have a dollar amount in mind? I said, well, I really don't have a dollar amount in mind. I can say that I want at least to be paid out for the contract that I signed, which was an 18-month contract. I think I want an additional 3 years on top of that contract, which they can pay out monthly. I don't want a lump sum. I want it to be paid out because of tax purposes. And he's like, we can make that work. And I also need you to include your 30% on top of whatever that number is, so that I have the exact amount that I need and you have the exact amount that you should get for your services. And he's like, cool, no problem. I can do that. We went back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. This went on for a little more than 9 months. They offered me a junior partnership. They offered me a partnership. They offered me whatever I wanted. When I tell you they were offering me everything under the sun, because they knew that I had them in such a way that I could shut this entire firm down. But the other side of that was the displacement of individuals who would lose their job, their potential livelihoods. The profession had taken a shift, and so I had to be mindful of that. And because I'm a good guy, I don't want to cause harm to people who had nothing to do with this. But I also am not going to let people get away with. So we finally settled on a number. We settled on what would be and how it would be. And one of the conditions of this was that I couldn't talk about the firm, and I never do. The second condition was that I had to have a conversation with my ex-boss about this, because that was what he wanted to do. And if I wanted to resolve this, I had to do that. I suppose he wanted to atone for his sins, but there is no atoning for a sin when you looked me in my face and called me a dumb nigger. I agreed to everything, got the check, did what I needed to do, moved on, and started a new chapter in my work life. Oftentimes we are faced with these racist, bigoted, ignorant things on the job. We are forced to smile. We are often forced to turn a blind eye to the blatant racism that exists in corporate America. And sometimes we do it because we got to eat. We do it because we may not be able to find another job. We do it because it's just easier to go along to get along. At no point, at no time am I ever going to allow that level of disrespect to happen and continue working there. Because you told me how you feel, what you think of me. And because I know that bit of information, I know that I will always be targeted and unjustly treated differently. And therefore, I just can cut my losses. I wanted to talk about that and how we as Black professionals deal with the racism, the microaggressions, the ignorance on the job, and how we have to take stock in how we respond, because our responses have to be measured, because if not, all of the stereotypical things about who we are as they have labeled us become fact, not fiction. I want you guys to think about when these things happen. I want you to take copious notes. I want you to respond to an email to the individual who made the racist statement, who was being bigoted, who was being ignorant. I want you to make sure when you send those emails, you blind CC yourself and you start keeping a record so that when it explodes, and trust me, it will, you have everything you need to get your money for the inconvenience and their stupidity and their ignorance. The other thing is never sitting in a space where you are disrespected. Test the waters. If it looks like it's cool, it's cool. If it's not, it's not. And be okay with that it's not, because your mental health will interfere with your creativity, your work product, if you're in a space where you know the racism is thick. Stay woke. We out.